Can you believe it? It's back. We're back. And we are so back. It's the Back to the TARDIS podcast. We used to be a retrospective podcast. Now we just talk about Doctor Who. Because Doctor Who is good and back. And it's great that has happened. I'm Geoff.
I'm Sam.
I don't know who I am.
And today we are covering the first of 3 60th anniversary specials released in this year, 2023, starring David Tennant and Catherine Tate. This episode is called The Star Beast, and it is written by who else? RTD, Rusty, Russell T. Davies, but it is technically adapted from a comic of the same name.
Really?
By Pat Mills and Dave Gibbons. Yes. It was a comic from the 80s with the 4th Doctor called The Star Beast, which, Pat Mills and Dave Gibbons, like the guy who drew Watchmen, did the original character design for Beep the Meep.
I did think that the character designs here were like a little anachronistic, I guess, for Doctor Who, but I don't know. I guess I kind of pass it off as just like they're going in a new direction aesthetically.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like the Rorth Warriors like look absolutely unabashedly 80s comic booky, and I love that they literally like one-to-one translated that to the screen, as opposed to like, you know, a lot of comic book stuff kind of tries to modernize the designs, and with both the Meep and the Rorth Warriors, they kind of played it very straight, which is great because I like the one, like, obviously the whole episode looks great, and that's one of the things that I can very easily praise about it, but like down to like the creature designs and creature prosthetics and puppets and all of that just look absolutely immaculate.
Oh yeah.
Classic camp with a modern budget.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this is the first. It's been a while. It's been about a year since the last Doctor Who episode to air, Power of the Doctor, which we did not cover Chibnall era. I will cliff note say that I thought Power of the Doctor was surprisingly entertaining, if only because of how batshit stupid it was and like kind of funny.
I never watched it, but I have heard that it was about the Doctor doing therapy with his past companions.
Not even okay, so you kind of get closure for like 5 and 7.
Uh-huh.
But mostly what it's about is Sacha Dhawan's master being very campy and silly and dancing to Boney M's Rasputin while pretending to be Rasputin in front of a bunch of Cybermen and Daleks, and then doing a weird plot that feels like it was supposed to be Freaky Friday, but they didn't commit.
I see.
It's Chibnall's End of Time.
It's an hour and a half long. It's longer than any of these episodes. And it is completely incomprehensible. But, you know, it was fun, but I was very much like kind of like tired and like, okay, I'm ready to move on. And I was kind of, you know, in the weeks leading up to this, I was kind of like, oh God, please don't fuck this up. Please don't fuck this up. And I will say, I think despite some places where it definitely stumbles that we will get into in a minute, this surprisingly feels like a 2008 episode, like to a T, just with 2023 like
Visuals.
Cultural sensibilities and visuals.
Yeah.
And admittedly, that's not even really the case for some of these other ones. Like I would argue, like the other 2 specials definitely play their hand a bit more in kind of answering what Who has been about since RTD left. But this one, which kind of makes sense because I feel like it is kind of the win back the crowd episode, is just full on like, this is a Smith and Jones, this is a partner in crime. It is a fairly inconsequential, fluffy, but kind of fun and like Spielbergian like episode to start things off.
It's the crowd pleaser. It's the return to form. It's the Force Awakens.
But better,
Oh,
yeah.
You know, better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the tightrope they had here was they had to like actually make it good. Uh,
Yes.
and I do think they met that. Like, I don't think it's like a crazy exceptional episode in any way, but it feels like, okay, we're back to like real Doctor Who now. This feels like a real
Yes.
Doctor Who episode that has like writing and
And
acting.
characters, yeah. Yeah.
Something to say. Goodness.
But to be fair, before we get to any of that, we get this first scene, which I swear to God, some executive producer or somewhere mandated this. Like Rachel Talalay straight up said, I didn't shoot this. Don't put this on me. I didn't shoot this. We get David Tennant in the green screen fighting game character select void, recapping what the fuck had been going on.
Yeah, he's in Mortal Kombat 1.
I forgot about that scene because it's so inconsequential to everything.
Yeah, it does look really goofy. It's also very funny because you have and there's nothing that they could have done about this because of just like digital video and there not being very much you can do to upscale it. But it's really funny whenever it cuts between like pristine 4K HDR at the beginning of this flashback sequence to like grainy pixely 576i for like the archival footage of old stuff. Like it is immediately noticeable. But weirdly enough, this time I noticed, weirdly enough, all of the older footage looks really like pixely and scrungy, except for the shots from Journey's End for some reason, which look lower res but fine. And I don't know why it's only the ones from Journey's End. Also, I will say you can tell they did this last minute because when Donna says, now I've got a nice life with a nice fella and a nice house and the most beautiful daughter in the world, the shot of Rose they use is from the last episode. And I didn't notice that until now when I've watched it after seeing that episode. But, it is what it is. They did it more last minute. I really like the visuals of the new credit sequence. They look really good. They look even more stunning in 4K HDR. I don't even hate the song. Like, we'll see. I feel like if it stays around for Shooty, then I might get a little bit more lukewarm on it. But for like these, where these are like big, fancy, high visibility like anniversary specials, I get kind of going for the more like orchestral, like bombastic style of it.
I did not like it.
My criticism is that it's too short. They cut it off too early.
Yeah.
And it feels like artificially shortened. That's my criticism. If it played through the normal length like every other Doctor Who theme, I wouldn't care as much. It's just that they cut it off early.
There's some weird like tracking with the TARDIS. There's a point I think where it like goes from like upper like left screen to lower right, and then it cuts to another part of the vortex, and it's still doing that, and it's just like that's
you want to know what it might be.
Interesting choice.
So here's the thing. I think RTD said in an interview that there was initially like a shot in that of like it zooms into the TARDIS door and it opens and whoever the Doctor and the companion is like waves out, and they thought it was like really clunky. Or some people said it was really clunky and they didn't like it, and RTD was like, I don't know, and eventually like he apparently like Moffat was the one who was like, no, drop it, it's cheesy.
Okay, yeah,
that might be why there's like weird cuts and stuff, and why it's slightly shorter is because they shortened it.
Yeah, so like outside of that, I really like the theme. I like the kind of like orchestral weight to it. The only thing I don't like, and it's skipping to the end for whatever reason,
is the breathing in the outro credits.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
oh god,
it's like I tripped and fell into an ASMR verse. Like, what are we doing here? Yeah, but that's like my only like sensory like pet peeve. It's the beginning, it's fine.
The breathing would bother me more if I ever watched any of these episodes on headphones, but I've been using speakers, so it's not. If it was in my headphones, it would probably be, oh god, this is awful.
Yeah, that's fair. For me, I just personally dislike anytime the opening gets too far away from like the original synth kind of style. I like the more traditional opening song. The visuals are okay. I'm not the hugest fan of them. I do wish they'd go back to something a bit more colorful, not like colorful necessarily, but brighter. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, the breathing is uncomfortable. I did watch it on headphones. It's uncomfortable. Like genuinely, I watched the episodes with a friend, and we were both just like, "Oh God, the breathing! Oh God!"
Yeah.
I was gonna say if it was more like straight up chanting,
Yeah.
I think that could work. Like, but as it is, it's like so airy, and it's just yeah,
Yeah.
to a point where it's uncomfortable.
I will say, despite all the orchestral layers and additional stuff that they've added on, I do appreciate that Murray Gold is still sampling like the original synth line for like the main melody. I like it when people do the full remix, but I also do really appreciate it when people just literally use the sample of the original like lead line. Cause yeah, it's iconic, and every time they've recreated it, it can sound good, but it never sounds like quite right, you know. But yeah, furthering on like the whole thing of like, oh, we have just literally, it is 2008 again, is the fact that it opens and it's just there's no bullshit, there's no setup. It is just immediately boom, 10 and Donna, we're going. And it is like just this. I was literally watching this whole first scene with the dialogue and the little visual comedy of him taking the box off and seeing that it's Donna and putting the box back and trying to walk away, to the introduction of Rose, to Donna missing the crashing spaceship again, all the way up to like him talking with Sean in the taxi. And I was just like, oh, we are so back.
Yeah, excellent pacing. Just one thing to the next, introducing all the new parts. Yeah, if it was a we're so back moment. Just immediately
Yeah.
felt like I'm right back again in series 4. Obviously with some
Yeah.
new parties involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did see some complaints that it was like, oh, it makes Donna coming back feel unearned. It could have happened at any time, but I feel like I really disagree. Like, I feel like it would have been more awkward if it was the whole like long drawn out thing of like
They
getting her
already did
back.
that. It's called Partners of Crime.
Yeah,
Like that the entire bit is that like the first 10 minutes of the episode they're just barely missing each other.
yeah, yeah, and so it's just they're coming back together, and they're just immediately back into the swing of things. And ultimately, she does get all of her shit back, and it's like, I think the resolution for it is fine because it's like, it's she eventually goes back home at the end of this little arc, and I think any way you're gonna bring a companion back, it's gonna be a little bit far fetched, but I think they navigated
Yeah.
it fine enough. I don't think they needed
Unless
to do
it's
anything like really crazy. It's
yeah.
just like, oh, she had a kid, so like the doctor brain split up, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. I have in my notes, and I really did, like, I was taking this seriously. Like, I watched it again today and I took like extensive notes. I have it in my notes. What did I say? I said a quote. I do not care that the resolution for the meta crisis is dumb because the meta crisis was dumb and shitty to begin with.
Yeah.
RTD, he used the Uno reverse card on himself.
Yes.
It's just like, but did you consider trans women?
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh yeah, true.
And I do think it's really funny. I think it is like people get mad, like let's say unreasonable people on Twitter get mad about like there not being as much Chibnall presence in these stories. And like I think RTD actually did more than even was necessary with like bringing stuff back and making it relevant in the next 2 episodes. But for this episode, definitely, yeah, you can skip straight from 2008 to now.
Yeah.
With like you will not miss anything.
Yeah, I'm really curious to what extent they made him like take the Chibnall stuff, or I don't know. I get.
No, I really do think, because again, these people are all friends,
Yeah.
right? They don't hate each other. They enjoy hanging out with each other. They enjoy each other's ideas. I think RTD literally took the stuff from Chibnall that he found interesting to work with. And you can see it in the later episodes and how he makes that interesting.
Yeah, that's the sense I got. Like I was toying like maybe it was like studio interference, but no, I feel like he's selective in it and also doesn't go too far into it. He's clearly setting up for something. Like we can get to that later, but obviously he's doing his little RTD cues that we're
Yes.
building towards something. Um, so yeah, I mean, here I think he did want it to be more his own thing, and then the other two episodes, he's like, okay, now I can start sort of like using that to build back into the Chibnall stuff. But here it is very much just like this is my episode.
Hmm. Yeah. And yeah, we get this little taxi scene with the back and forth with Sean, which is great. It's great too because Sean was in End of Time, but like you didn't really get a sense of who he was, and he's still not like a major player in this, but he feels like he neatly slots in a very like nice way.
Yeah, I get the sense like this is the kind of guy that would like be perfect for Donna and her family. Just kind of
Yes,
very go with the flow, but not like
yeah,
not a doormat by
he's
any
low
means.
maintenance.
But
He's low maintenance.
yeah,
I also, like there was some theorizing before the episode came out of like where all of Donna's money went. And I do like where they came up with in the actual episode. I know some of us were in here like theorizing that it all went away because of how expensive trans healthcare in the UK is.
That would have been really funny, but I feel like they couldn't have gotten away with that on BBC.
That would have been too sad.
Like,
That would have been too sad.
not even that it's too sad. Not even that it's too sad. Just like I don't think BBC would have allowed it because it would like reflect badly on them.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, the BBC is not directly involved with the production of the show anymore. Like, they're airing it and they are co-funding it, but I don't know if they're any more involved with the actual production than like Disney is.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're like involved with it, but I feel like they're if they push it that far, it would definitely like cause too much controversy or something.
Yeah,
Just because
yeah.
of the
Oh
absolute
yeah, by
state
the
of
way,
the UK.
yeah, yeah, we didn't mention this shit is on Disney Plus, like frame one, with the air date in the UK, like exactly time match, which is crazy. Doctor Who, like in my lifetime, that has never been the case for Doctor Who. Even if, like, for example, when Series 10 was airing, and I actually did have cable in BBC America, like it would be later in the day, and they would like edit commercial breaks into it, and it would suck. So it's crazy that we're actually getting stuff like day and date on streaming, and it's not like super edited or fucked up or anything.
yeah, it feels
Not
surreal.
to mention the money they're throwing in.
It feels surreal seeing it in like the rest of like the kind of very corporatized like
Yeah.
Disney schlock. And I say this as someone who like likes some Disney stuff, but yeah, it's definitely there's a type of convenience there.
Yeah,
for sure,
definitely.
and like some sense of appreciation that the show might return to a type of prominence that it hasn't really seen since
Yeah.
I don't know, like the height of Matt Smith, maybe early
Yeah.
Capaldi.
And they're just getting started too. Like they've basically said like, yeah, we're putting these out on Disney Plus as the 60th specials for people, but like they've said we are going to go way harder on the promotion stuff with Shooty because that's supposed to be like a new blank slate starting point that anybody can jump in with. So like they haven't even gotten started yet, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So the 14th Doctor, which by the way, let's just get this out of the way now. Everything about how David Tennant looks, both from his physical personal appearance down to like his costume design and his hair and makeup and everything, is leagues better than it was in 2006 to 2010, which is crazy because it was already good then, and it is just he has aged like a fine wine and just looks perfect. Like I look at like screenshots from Doomsday and he looks like a weird baby man.
Yeah, I like in my mind this version of Tenet has like already painted over the old like the 10 because I saw a screenshot of 10 today like on Twitter and I was just like, "Oh my god, he looks so like odd, like he just doesn't have this maturity to him. He just looks like weirdly young."
it's less bad with later in his run, because I think later in his run he did get a bit more stubble and looks, a bit more haggard. But like with Rose, yeah, no, he looks like a weird baby man.
Yeah, it's like what does River Song say in the library? Something like "You're not done yet" or something. Like
Yeah.
that's how the entirety of um of 10 feels. At least like the early Rose stuff compared to 14.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see. Basically, I'm sure 14 still has like his flaws, and they're basically like fully called out
Yeah.
like 2 episodes later, 2 specials later. But it's nice to see like a gravitas or like a doctoriness about him that like 10 did not have a majority of the
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
It feels like.
And it really does, even though, like, I guess I'll say, so this episode doesn't explicitly engage with a lot of Chibnall stuff, but there is like more subtle stuff. Like, he is just so much more emotionally open
Yeah.
than 10 was, like, at least post Rose. Like with Rose he was pretty emotionally open, but like after that, definitely he was a lot more arrogant, and a lot, I mean, even with Rose, like he got cut off before he could say what he wanted to say, and all of that. But he feels like a doctor who has gone through everything that has happened between 10 and 14.
Yeah.
And they do such an incredible, like, subtle way of doing that. It's subtle, but it's noticeable.
Yeah, and I was just like, the whole time I was watching this, I was just really astounded by 14, or like by 14, by David Tennant. Because, I'm thinking about the process of acting, and like when you played that role and that was like a big part of your career and you got really into playing it that way, and then now you have to like subtly shift it, because he does still play it like himself. But as you said,
Yeah.
he has all these subtle differences. He speaks a little deeper. He's just like, he carries himself a little different, and you just get the sense like, yeah, he's older, he's tired. He's everything that they're saying he is in the dialogue, and like you don't need the dialogue to even understand that, because you see it on him, you see it in his face, you see it in the way he carries himself, and it's a really impressive performance, and he carries it through all 3 episodes, and like we're going to get to this later, but in the third episode, I feel like he really does it excellently. Just like leading up to those final scenes, he just like, you feel the tiredness in him. It feels like he's just ready. It's like he came back. This base came back one last time to retire. Like he had business he needed to take care of, but not Martha. Apparently, he had business he needed to take care of, and he's just tired. He's ready to come back and then finish things, because he never got the end. He never got an ending for himself. I think that's really the key. Like he ended too soon. He had the shortest like canon time out of any of the doctors, and obviously he has the new shortest time again.
Yeah, he does. Okay, you want to know this? We have hard confirmation now because of the novelization that came out for the giggle.
Mm-hmm.
The 14th Doctor's lifespan is 15 hours.
Oh my god.
Like, literally, if he had existed for 1 hour less, he could have tanked that laser blast. But yeah. And yeah, and especially you feel it in this next scene, when he's talking to a new, and I think standout character, and I'm glad that I believe she will be back a bunch, Unit's new scientific advisor, mm-hmm. Shirley Ann Bingham, who, Oz, it is a little bit like, oh, where's Osgood? But like, Shirley's really good.
Yeah, she's really good. I miss Osgood too, but like, oh my god, she's great.
Yeah. And is kind of in some ways responsible for a lot of like more behind the scenes changes, like the TARDIS being completely wheelchair accessible now and stuff like that.
That wasn't
which
Theories.
Yeah. Well, it was Theories too, but like when you're casting someone who is disabled, like that's something that you're probably going to think about at some point.
Oh no, yeah.
Like in this
for sure.
Age. So yes, it was Theories too.
Yes,
but,
and
yeah. Yes, and yeah. And then we get to I guess, yeah, controversial scene number 1, which is the scene where Rose is dead named.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I will let other people speak first, as the gender is a spectrum, but I am probably the most cis leaning person in this call on that spectrum.
Yeah, I will just say I didn't like it. I think it's unnecessary. Just generally, you know, I think they could have shouted like a slur at her, and I would have been cooler with that. Like that felt
Yeah.
more. That would have felt more representative. Because like when somebody's like harassing you on the street, they don't usually like shout your dead name at you. They're just gonna like call you a faggot or something.
Yeah.
It just felt like weirdly unnecessary. Like, oh, get it? She's trans. Like, do you understand? Please understand this. Okay, I do have a really funny thing. I was watching this with my friend, and we're both trans, and she kept forgetting that Rose was trans, and she was really confused when that scene happened because she's like, "Whose name is that? Like, why are they shouting that name?"
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like to get inside RTD's head, and this might be a little bit generous of me, I feel like so this is RTD and he's unsubtle, so that's part of it.
Yeah,
but I
definitely.
also do feel like part of it is he is writing this for an audience of children who live on Turf Island.
Yes.
And that's kind of why, to demonstrate like this is not okay, and then immediately demonstrate like Donna as a role model, amazing parent who would throw hands with these children.
Yeah.
No, like I don't think it's the I think there's a thing later that I dislike a lot more, but this is I dislike it a little bit, but it's like it's whatever. Ultimately,
Yeah.
I get why it's done. I just like personally think it's unnecessary.
Yeah. They could have done without it, and yeah, it's something that is hard to make a generalization out of either way, because not all trans people think the same. I've seen some who like it and some who dislike it.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of I hope RTD takes this shit seriously going forward in terms of how stuff is portrayed on screen.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to stop, like, which is good. Like, we know, like, not only does he want to work with Yasmin Finney again, like, we know there have been other like trans actors casted for the next couple seasons.
Nice.
So
Yeah, and again, like, I'm more on the ambivalent side of it, though I will say if I had to pick between like discourse happening around like well-intentioned but clearly like older cis
he's
man
he's 60. Yeah.
trying to write like well-meaning representation, I'd rather have, I guess, those discussions than we'll get there, but like by generation and stuff like that. I'd rather the conversation be around like stuff like this than like loopy sci-fi pull out of your ass concepts like that. And of course the transphobes, they don't need to be listened to on this. They're just they're gonna
definitely not.
freak out about everything. But yeah, it didn't bother me immensely because I've never really had a lot of us in the system don't have a connection to the dead name. It's kind of just like whatever, but I can definitely see on the part of others where it's like really like a personal, like, it's dead for a reason, both in terms of like the trans history and like wanting to bury the dead name. I can see it on both ends. I do think there needs to be some charity that doesn't excuse bad representation, but at least like properly frames the conversation. I think I would be a lot less charitable if and people can call it being a hater, but if Chibnall did this,
God.
Yeah, you already know. So it's I'm kind of going into it with that mindset. There's another, I think the most yikesy moment, honestly, out of anything of the 3 specials so far, comes from like a...
Oh, is it the thing in the giggle?
Yeah, it's the microaggressive
what Donna
moment
says?
in the giggle. And I watched some reactions from...
Donna's white woman moment, TM.
Yeah, I watched some reactions to that episode and to like that area, and you know, a lot of React creators, yes, are white, but even like some that aren't. And of course, Monolith, like, I didn't see any of them call it out, but, you know, that also doesn't mean that, like, that it isn't an issue. So,
Yeah.
like, if
Yeah,
we keep
definitely.
seeing this going forward, I think it's definitely going to be more of a conversation. But as of right now, maybe it's the charity towards RTD. Maybe it's the excitement of Doctor
Yeah.
Who feeling like back. Yeah, we're just going to have to see. But right now, I'm mostly on board. Again,
I'm still letting him cook. I'm still letting
yeah,
him cook.
exactly.
Did you guys ever see, on the subject of like idiots and like transphobes making like reaction bait content about the new stuff? Did you see that fucking thumbnail of the Wild Blue Yonder poster? But there's a speech bubble near Tennant's face to say "I like men now."
That's incredible.
It's like unintentionally the funniest fucking thing ever.
Many people are saying this.
But yeah, and I think what we can say though is that regardless of how some of the gender themes are handled in the episode, how RTD writes Donna and Sylvia in relationship to
Yeah.
Rose is amazing.
It's the
Yeah.
most grounded, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it's RTD's forte. He's great at writing, you know, real people in a, or you know, they're not real, but like you get the feeling that they are real, even if they kind of exist in a heightened melodrama world.
Yeah. I will say well, we can talk about the meep first, but just the next thing that Rose says with the meep, I did find cringe. Not like, okay, I'll just say it, like the like, did you just like assume that the meep is a he? And the doctor's like, oh yeah, you're right. And I'm just like, okay, I don't think this is cringe for like right-wing reasons, obviously. I just think that the doctor would never have assumed that to begin with, and that's out of character for him. And that's like weird. It's just setting up a weird conflict that didn't need to be
Depends
there
on
at
the
all.
writer.
Yeah.
Depends on the
That's
writer, I feel
true.
like, because ultimately this is a character that has existed for 60 years and mostly been written by straight white men. So yes, I think
mean,
it would probably
Ken
be
wouldn't.
yeah, it would probably be better, yes, for the character to not make that assumption, but I get why it's there. Again, kids.
Kids, yeah.
Yeah.
I do just
But
think it's like
yeah,
setting
it's
itself up for backlash in a weird, unnecessary way that also
yeah.
like misrepresents the doctor a little.
That's true. Part of me wonders, like, you know, this might be like me being a little bit generous, but part of me also wonders if like they intentionally upplayed it just to get the blowout out of the way.
That's fair.
And to filter anyone who's too much of a bitch to stick with it.
That's very fair. It could very much be that.
Like that you like there is something to be said ultimately for the very first thing you're doing being the episode about how loving your trans child unconditionally is based and will save the world.
Yep. It is a pretty
Yeah.
strong message. Like that aspect of the message, I will say, like, it's great.
Yeah. I will also say with regards to Sylvia too, even though you know, there's a lot of stuff that you are inferring happened off screen. I think it's really fascinating that like Sylvia has always been an interesting character because she kind of sucks, and that's the point. Like in series 4 she kind of sucks, and like both like she's contrasted with Donna and Wilf in the sense of like even Wilf's like okay, she's a little harsh and kind of abusive and shitty. But she really seems to have mellowed out here, and you in a really cool way. Like it's not just rehashing the same dynamics. Like she's still the same person, but you get the sense that she's mellowed out a little bit more and is less harsh in showing how she does genuinely care about Donna and her family.
Yeah, I think there was. I can just imagine, like, obviously, like, canon isn't real, but, like, everything. Just thinking of everything that supposedly would have happened on Earth between 10 parting ways with Donna and, like, obviously 15 years for them, but everything that happened on Earth during that time. And she's trying to. She and Wilf probably are trying to, like, keep her away from that, and just how that, like, shapes you, and then like helping take care of the family once Donna like gets rid of the lottery money, and then probably everything with Rose when like that whole change was happening in the family. It feels very realistic, especially from the point of like Ten telling her the last time he saw her, like, maybe you should tell your daughter every once in a while how you care about her. They're the same people, but they've realistically aged. None of them have stayed static. The ones we knew anyway, and it's nice.
Yeah.
It's again showing the skill of RTD at his best with character work.
Yeah, definitely. And then yeah, so we get to the bit of the episode here with the Meep. And I will say I think this was a really good so admittedly I have not read the original Star Beast comic, but if you kind of distill what, like, this is a fairly played straight adaptation, and if you kind of distill down what the point of the Star Beast is, it is basically you have an ET like setup with, a small, cute, merchandisable alien who comes down to Earth and is running away from something and wants to be your friend. But the whole twist is that they're a complete manipulative piece of shit, like evil motherfucker. And the scary aliens chasing the Meep are actually trying to just get it out of the planet while causing as little harm as possible. And I think something with an outline that's that easily digestible and distillable down is a great thing to put in here when you've kind of split the episode between that and between the character stuff with 14 and Donna's family. I feel like, yes, you have a haha RTD ass pull ending, but it feels less bad because I think it does a fairly decent job of balancing between the two things, and it's not a very like serious episode.
Yeah, I mean, what Special One needed to do, if he had the idea of like, okay, Doctor and Donna back together, obviously you have to solve the whole remember or she dies thing. So I think realistically, any alien plot you do is, even though it is like kind of the B plot, it's servicing obviously the A plot of the characters. So, having it be an anniversary special and celebrating that by adapting like a kind of like a subversive, like a story that plays with tropes. You have the cute alien, but it's evil and arguably transphobic for some reason. I don't know. And yeah, just playing with that. I think it was a good choice. I know some people who were like familiar with the comic were disappointed. It seems that like they didn't play more into that, but I think there's a lot of things, a lot of choices here that are in service of the larger like character piece of 14 and Donna coming back together. And obviously we know where that ends up. I think at the time it's understandable to not really, you don't have the full picture when you're first watching this. These specials very much are connected, even though he did say this is not a part 1, 2, and 3. They're 3 separate episodes. It's basically yes with an asterisk.
Yeah, the structure of this is interesting because I think it is like, I think these 60th specials are on the whole like pretty damn excellent, but I think if I did have kind of one overarching complaint, it is that it kind of tries to cram a normal like RTD season structure into 3 episodes and doesn't quite stick the landing. Like, I was watching this like, man, I wish all 3 of these focused on all the nobles as opposed to just Ten and Donna and the toy maker and that stuff. Like, I was like, I wish this comes back, and you get into things like later when you see some of the new stuff that the sonic screwdriver can do that is only used in this episode. And since Shooty's getting a new prop, like, it's kind of like, is that going to be a thing going forward, or was that just a throwaway?
Wait, what did he do with the Sonic again?
Like when he's pulled like in the site where the ship lands,
Uh-huh.
he's like draws a screen and looks at the screen, and then when the
Oh,
house is being assaulted by Unit and the Rorth warriors, he makes the two little like shield
Yeah,
plates
hard light.
so
right,
they can get
right,
everyone
right.
out. And some people, I was watching that and I'm like, boy, some people are gonna bitch about this. And that doesn't seem like it didn't bother me because it felt like something that it make logical sense for a tool of the Doctor. Like it makes sense that a tool that the Doctor uses has the ability to like safely get people out of a crisis situation without escalating it.
Yeah.
But it is kind of funny that that was never used again.
Hmm.
Who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
Shooty will use it.
I liked the 14th Doctor's Sonic.
Yeah,
I don't really see the. I mean, by generation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's two props, but yeah, I kind of find it funny that like as with like a lot of big franchise things nowadays, it's just like, oh, there's a new one. How do you get it? Comic. Go read
yeah.
that. um,
I mean, they solved this all the way back in Moffat, where the TARDIS console just spits one out of him at one point. And he's like, "Perfect, cool."
yeah, sure. So
Like, it
it's like
doesn't
it's
really
not the
matter.
most unfeasible thing in the world, but it's like yeah, I kind of as soon as we saw when 14 is like looking at the schematics on like a projection from the Sonic, I was just like, oh, they're doing stuff with this now.
Yeah, which is funny because again, they don't really use it as much for anything because he doesn't have it at all in Wild Blue Yonder, and I feel like he doesn't have it for most of the Giggle too. Or if he does have it, he's not using it. So, as we already mentioned, the puppets for the Meep and the Rorth warriors are fantastic. Or sorry, it's a puppet for the Meep and then the suits for the Rorth warriors. One side note, I gotta find this. Did you guys see the clip that someone got of? So this is on Disney Plus, so it got a bunch of dubs, and someone found like the Japanese dub for the Meep.
Oh my
Oh my
god.
god.
Yeah,
Does he
it's
go like
really good.
Meeped?
Yeah, I need to rewatch. I need to rewatch all of these in Spanish. It might actually have two Spanish dubs because for some reason Disney Plus likes to have a dub for Latin America and one for Spain because I guess they get to be special. Um, so
Hey, do not lump us together.
Spain. That was a joke on Spain, okay?
Uh-huh.
Not on the rest of the Hispanic Spanish speaking world. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Um
Who is it that
so yeah,
voices her in English?
it's Miriam Margolyes.
Right. So I hate that all my British actor references are still Harry Potter. The Professor Sprout.
Yeah.
Fuck. I don't know. Cool. She's getting work. I thought she did a good job.
Yeah. No, it's great. So apparently she has a propensity for not having a filter, and I saw someone on Twitter be like the biggest accomplishment of the episode was getting Miriam Margolyes in to voice a character and have her not swear for an hour.
Nice.
Like people already dubbed it, like made edits of like the Meep just swearing because they found other audio clips. Like it's a real, it's like the Peter Capaldi stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Her performance really makes the turn work because it's got the same energy as oh god, Diana Rigg in the Crimson Horror, where she's just playing this psychotic old lady, and she's so fucking funny and camp. Like it has that same energy,
Yeah.
especially with like the evil laughs and the like all hail the Meep stuff. It's great. Even though we start off here and they're very clearly just hitting that ET shit with the Meep and Rose, like
Yeah.
just going for it.
I really I will say like they played it really well that I genuinely didn't see the twist coming, even though it should have been like really obvious by the fact that it's Doctor Who and that's the kind of thing Doctor Who would do.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
like, huh, it's weird that this creature's getting chased. I wonder what's up with that.
Yeah. Yeah, as someone who knew like what the like I haven't read the Star Beast, but I knew what the deal with the Star Beast was before I watched the episode because people had explained it on Twitter. I was legitimately sitting there like, are they going to subvert it or are they going to play it straight? And they did play it straight, but they did it very entertainingly. So I'm you know, all in on that.
Yep.
And I think it's especially great, like just the entire sequence where like everything starts to escalate and like Unit. Oh, and I forgot to mention this. It's really funny how Unit have like super fashy uniforms now, but they are played completely straight in all of these episodes. Like they have more fashy uniforms than they did in RTD1, where he was explicitly like using them to criticize military policies. But you know, Unit shows up at the door, Donna finds the Meep, 14 shows up, and it just this entire sequence is just so fucking funny of like them all freaking out, and then 14 shows up and Sylvia hears that he's there and like boss music starts playing as she storms towards the door, and it starts trying to like gaslight Donna into like not believing any of this is real to try and protect her. And then Sean just walks in and is like, hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just we're so back. We're so back.
Yeah, perfect escalation.
And then yes, unit raids and the Rorth Warriors raid, and we get that little bit of the sonic shield, which again, I hope that is a thing that sticks around in the future because I think it makes perfect sense for the Doctor to have. It certainly avoids the criticism. What was that? It was after Eve the Daleks, where everybody was really mad that the Daleks kept like stormtrooper aiming and like not hitting like 13 Yaz and Dan. It's like simple, just get a fucking shield. There you go. Can't complain about that now. There's a line here when they're running through the attics that is like tailor-made to get sicko freaks like me pointing and yelling when he says this is a sonic screwdriver, and if there's one thing it's good at, it's resonating concrete, with the fucking Ninth Doctor reference.
Yeah, I had to go to Twitter for that one, but
I caught it immediately because, as I said, I am a sicko freak.
yeah, I figured it was something, but
yeah. And, you know, they all run through, and you get the very nice thing here where, like, the Doctor notices that something is up. He checks the pulse of the unit soldier and realizes that they're not dead. And it plays in, too, because, like, when they're driving off on the taxi, like, the taxi doesn't get scorched. And if you're watching that, you're like, oh, they just didn't want to, like, you know, ding up a nice taxi. And then it turns out, no, that's the point. And you get this little court segment, which is great and very, very doctory. People were posting pictures of like a Fourth Doctor episode where he also pulls out like a barrister's wig and puts it on.
I mean, I found it interesting because didn't he like proclaim the authority of the Shadow Proclamation or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was just a really good RTD moment.
Yeah. Which, I mean, as usual, the Shadow Proclamation only matters when he's trying to invoke the rules or when they have to run to a government of some kind, and otherwise it does not matter.
I like how the Shadow Proclamation just like, I don't even understand how it works. Is it just like the universal government? It doesn't seem to be everywhere, but like whenever they bring it up, everyone's like, oh yeah, okay, the Shadow Proclamation, that makes sense.
I feel like they've gotta just be like the Hooniverse UN, which means like people are supposed to be following rules, but also like if you're big dick enough, you can just be like, no, the rules don't apply to me. Like, cause that feels like how it is.
yeah.
That being said, again, with the fact that they played all the 80s comic stuff with it so straight, like we get full on people saying shit about like the psychedelic sun on television in 2023 is like fuck yes, let's go.
That was wild. See, this is definitely contextualizing why the episode was like that. I just thought they were being
Yeah.
quirky.
No, it's 80s as fuck. And then, the twist, which, any episode where the little scrimblow of the week goes, oh, to hell with this, and pulls out a laser gun and starts capping motherfuckers is like, oh, this is great. This is the good shit.
Yeah, they were just 2 days away from retirement.
Retirement, yeah. The gang gets captured and taken to the Meeps hideout. And we, evil plan. The technobabble in this episode in particular, I feel like is like intentionally over the top goofy. Like, just throughout, you get lines like fucking brandish the gravity stanchions and all the shit that like 14 and Donna are going on about when they're like resolving the thing at the end. And it's just like they went over the top on the technobabble in this one.
It got to like Star Trek, like fucking Voyager levels of we don't know what we're doing anymore, but clearly intentional and kind of like a throwback to the original appearance of the Dr. Donna.
Yeah. I really like there are ass pulls in this episode. I think some people could maybe describe Shirley rocking up with a wheelchair that has a shit ton of weapons strapped in it to save the day an ass pull. But to that I say, fuck you, that shit's rad as hell. Just as a fucking rocket launcher in the wheelchair.
And if you're in unit, any like mobility aid is just like an excuse to give you more weapons, just to strap you up more.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I unfortunately it obviously never happened because they were only able to get that one scene with Bernard Cribbins. But like the second I saw that scene, I'm like, oh, there's gonna be a scene where Will finds out he has rocket launchers in his wheelchair. I feel like that had to be the intent at some point, even if they didn't get to it, because again, they only got the one scene with Bernard Cribbins. But, And then, yeah, throughout the episode, you kind of get hints that Donna's starting to remember things. And then she decides to run off and help the doctor save the day. And you get this admittedly hilariously contrived set piece of like this control room that has like a blast door dividing it down the middle. But it, like a lot of RTD contrived stuff, he's able to make really good drama out of the fact that characters are separated by a sheet of plexiglass. He did it in End of Time, he's gonna do it next week, and he did it here.
Yep, it was really good.
Yeah, I think this bit is really, I think, one of the most important things of like subtly kind of acknowledging where the show went since RTD left, because I feel like this bit is explicitly acknowledging a comment that I know I at least had in our Journey's End episode, and Moffat kind of implicitly had with Clara and Bill, which is, you don't get the right to erase my memories without my consent, even if it is to save me. I have the right to decide that I would rather die as myself than live as someone who has forgotten all of this and is someone that I'm not. And I really respect, like, people talk about the meta crisis shit being a cop-out and whatever, but I think it really is great how ultimately the episode looks back at that and looks at what Moffat had said with Clara and Bill and all of that and went, yeah, you know what? You're right. That was fucked up.
And it's also however you feel about how, like, and I'm sure we'll get there with like the solution of how the meta crisis is ultimately like solved or dissipated. The solution, at least that he uses, is one that couldn't have happened you couldn't look at this episode and be like, well, why didn't they just do that, 15 years ago? It's a novel
Yeah.
solution. Rose has grown up. She's there. Um, there's like little hints, and they kind of do cheat with like her shed. I don't think you actually see any of her like
No, you don't.
thing,
You don't.
any of her like toys or like plushes that are like of Doctor Who monsters until like the reveal.
Yeah.
So like that's whatever,
Yeah, they
but
cheat
like
there.
yeah, it might be an ass pull, but it's one that like has a logical setup.
Yeah, definitely. It's yeah. We'll get more into that when we get to the eventual resolution of this. I will just say I'm looking at my notes here. And for this bit, this scene where he's running around back and forth in this little like control room thingy, I have in my notes, it's just really nice watching Stickman David Tennant run around. uh I miss that. And the stupid ass technobabble and the best like brick joke like Chekhov's gun line fired in the entire episode, which is earlier on when during the controversial scene, and Donna basically says like anybody tries to mess with you to Rose, and says anyone tries to mess with you and I will descend upon them. And then you get the really great callback here at the end where once she gets her memories restored, and it's like, yeah, no, this is great. I'm saving the world. I'm saving my family. Donna Noble is descending. Is like, fuck yes, that's a pop off.
Hell yes.
I will say, people talk about the meta-crisis thing being dumb, and I don't really care about that. The thing that I care a little bit more about, and even then, like, it doesn't really bother me, I just think it's really funny, is the fucking road sealing itself back up after
I
the
thought
thing
the
is...
same thing.
It's so fucking funny. He literally can't help himself.
It's just such an RTD moment. It's like, yeah, and the road, it was fine. Don't worry, it sealed itself back up. Just
Don't
like,
worry about it.
we
Yeah.
don't have to want to
you
like
can
explain what we did.
Yeah, you can unstab the earth. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and then yes, there's the second part of the ass pull, which is that Rose inherited part of the meta crisis and gained that at some point. And as dumb as it is, I kind of have to like semi-ironically pop off and clap at the binary, non-binary thing.
God,
It's really funny. It's really funny.
It's funny in a really boomer way that makes you groan, which is exactly what happened when I was watching it. Myself and my bestie just went, ah. And then
Transmed seizing in chat.
The explicit line that she has the female and the male, and I like threw something across the room.
Yeah. It is very like the whole episode is very like your dad who is genuinely 100% like accepting and loving and all gung-ho for it, but like doesn't quite get it, but like his heart's in the right place, so you can't really get like super mad at him.
It was a groaner, that's what it was.
Yeah. Definitely. So yeah, there's the little denouement and all of that, and there's the other controversial bit in here of the line of something that a male presenting Time Lord would never understand, and I'm just gonna double check. Donna says that, right?
No, didn't
I think
say
Rose
it?
does.
Oh, Rose says it. Okay, because I was gonna say I couldn't remember if Donna or Rose said it, because I feel like if Donna said it, like it's a little bit more like in character acceptable, because like she's just like ribbing him. She does that all the time.
It was weird from Rose. It was like, oh god.
Yeah, it's a little weird from Rose.
Especially like right after, to have it be like, yeah, the Doctor is male and female and neither.
The Doctor is
more.
beyond gender.
Yeah, it felt like again, this like this older cis gay writer, he's trying his best, but you know, there's gonna be like, if you don't like, there's gonna be the tendency for moments like this to happen where it's just like, oh yeah, you know, non-gender like prescriptivism, but also like here's a line about like essentializing that men can't let things go.
Yeah, it's very Moffat core. It's
Yeah.
very Moffat core in the sense of like Moffat would say something that's genuinely like politically and socially profound and then do one of his weird boomer women things and it's like, what the fuck, bro? Yeah, it is what it is. And about the like just letting it go with the meta crisis and that just solving it. Yes, I will fully say it is a little stupid, but again, the meta crisis was stupid to begin with, and the entire scene is literally the doctor just saying this is how it is and pretty much dismissing any other potential way to solve it. So it's like, you know, I don't really feel too torn up about it because it was dumb. It was dumb and cruel to begin with, and you know, if you're gonna write something stupid and then come up with a stupid way to get out of it, I feel like that cancels it out for me.
I heard someone make the joke that like, oh, when Rose and Donna let the meta crisis go, often Pete's world tend
Yes.
to, he either like disappears in like a like cloud of gold dust, or just like the head made of Donna that's like in his brain just like goes away.
Yeah.
Poor Rose.
Yeah. God, I also have to say, I am astonished with how restrained RTD was with the Rose shit. Like, there's just the fact that Donna's daughter is named Rose, and there's like initial confusion with that. And then, like, I think 15 mentions her in the giggle. He is astonishingly restrained when it comes to Rose.
Yeah, I did appreciate, I mean, it's definitely understated that like you think about like if the doctor was in Rose's head too, that like a like female name that she would choose for herself, or like trans femme name she would choose for herself is Rose. Because you would think like, you know, otherwise how would she be named Rose? Did she ask her mom to rename her? I know some trans people with like good relations with their parents will like ask their parents like, what would you name me? But yeah, it's again, it's something that doesn't matter unless you really think about it, and even then it still works. So
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's all that. We do get a little bit of RTD arc setup, which, you know, it hasn't gone anywhere yet. We'll see where it goes with Shooty. And, you know, little you know, denouement stuff. We get to see the new TARDIS interior, which is massive, has lots of great angles for filming. You know, lighting, wheelchair accessible, the whole thing. Fun tidbit. It was David Tennant's idea to run around the TARDIS set at the beginning, and apparently he really grew to regret that by the 8th take.
Oh no.
nice.
But yeah, so the new TARDIS interior, the fact that the lighting is programmable is good because I don't like the default lighting that they've used in the specials. I like the ones that Shooty's TARDIS had, and I like it when they kind of play with the lighting and make it a little bit dimmer. When it's just like full bright white, it's a little eh. And it is a little sterile right now, but I'm hoping they'll kind of do like what they did with 12's interior, where it is 11-second interior, but it's got warmer lighting and more stuff in it and feels a bit cozier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it already seems like, I mean, they have.
He's got the jukebox.
Yeah, I was just like, interesting first thing to add, but yeah, I do hope it is like an 11 TARDIS B to 12 situation, because there's definitely space enough to like add to it, and I think
Yeah.
the only thing with that is just like they spent, I can't even imagine how much with like all the lights and making sure that like all of them are programmable. I get why you wouldn't want to obscure that too much, so you could like fully play with the lighting.
Mhm.
But also like even in just that central area where like the jukebox, you could put more stuff in there to make it like not like, you know, eight's TARDIS in the movie where it's like very, you know, Victorian or whatever, but you could
Yeah.
make it look like a place that like he hangs out.
Yeah. And it's very filmable, which is good because the last one had a bunch of shit in it and made it harder to film in. And it was really dark. Uh so at least this one isn't too dark. Um and then yes, Goofy, like the Donna spilling the coffee on the TARDIS console, and it's like, oh, cliffhanger into the next episode, and yeah, that's the episode.
Yay.
Does anybody have any little things that they want to bring up before we move on to our ratings section?
Rose is very pretty.
Yes.
I think it's good that Yasmin Finney will probably be back because RTD said he really liked working with her and likes the character and will hopefully revisit. And part of that is also because I really, really want Rose to like hang out with Shooty, maybe even become Shooty's like a companion for a while or something like that. I think it's great. You know, like Tennant's great, and obviously he has been doing his part in Good Omens and stuff, but like on the fruitiness meter, not anywhere close, you know, compared to Shooty. I just want, I feel like that would be a great ass dynamic.
It would.
Yeah.
Um yeah. Well, in that case, I think we can move it along to ratings. I think I wrote down I wrote down my little spiel for this episode in my notes. The Star Beast is without fail a 60-minute version of a normal RTD series opener with a roided up budget. Well, it doesn't really like play with any of the ideas put forth in the series after RTD's departure, except for like a few subtle small things. Like it's more character stuff, not like Timeless Children or Flux or something like that. It effortlessly succeeds in being an episode meticulously designed to win back people who dropped off Doctor Who, and does it in glorious high budget Rachel Talalay directed 4K HDR quality streaming worldwide on Disney Plus. It's not exceedingly special, but a return to just, you know, entertaining dialogue and top-notch acting makes sure that it sticks the landing. It's the primary theme is really admirable, even if it's handled clunkily. It's just so loving and from what I can think of, genuinely groundbreaking for like a major science fiction franchise of Doctor Who's caliber being released on Disney Plus of all platforms, that I feel like I can't knock the episode extremely hard on that merits. And as such, I'd give it like it's an 8 out of 10 or like an A minus B plus. It's a really solid episode to have as your first episode back and to kind of make your statement of we're back, we're here, let's go.
Yeah. Echoing much of what you said, Jeff, it feels like a Return of the King, in a way. RTD proving that he can take a lot of his sensibilities, but also show in some ways where he's improved as a writer, some ways where he's still as unsubtle as ever, sometimes to the benefit of the episode, and sometimes to the detriment. Sometimes even within the same scene, but it's unapologetically sincere and aiming for something familiar, but also trying to break new ground, which is, I think, the best thing you can hope for in a kind of return to form, win back all the new Who old heads while trying to get, you know, new people on board. Of course, teeing up for the new era on Disney Plus for international fans. Really strong episode in terms of character, in terms of set design, in terms of pacing. Yeah, a great bit of television all around. I echo your sentiments. It's a strong B plus, you know, admirable A minus, depending on my mood that day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this episode is, well, by the standards of RTD Who, I don't think it's exceptional, but obviously it feels like an exceptional breath of fresh air after 4 years.
Five since
Five.
2018.
God.
Technically even longer if you consider Twice Upon a Time was Christmas 2017.
Christ. Okay.
So
5 years of Chibnall hell. So this, it just feels good. It feels good. Most everything here clicked. I don't think it's doing anything crazy, but just we needed one to get back in the saddle, and I think this episode does that. I would pretty much just say it's a 7 out of 10.
yeah, that's very fair. All right then. I think I have a general idea for how the wrap up of this podcast goes. I did not listen to any of our old episodes before I booted this up, and it has been almost a year. Like, I think we put the Twice Upon a Time episode out in like January.
Yeah,
So it's
January.
been a hot second.
Yeah.
But next up, we have Wild Blue Yonder, which I'm very excited to watch for the third time because that's probably my favorite out of these three specials. Until then, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at B2TARDISPod. We will probably not be doing Patreon stuff going forward. It was a nice experiment, but I don't really feel like it's necessary right now. So that probably will not be restarted, but you can still follow us on Twitter at B2TARDISPod. I'm Geoff. You can follow me on Twitter at WheatleyDL.
I'm Sam of the Iridescence System. You can follow us on twitter.com at Ahura Borealis.
It's your bitch, UFL. You can find us at AG Penis.
And we will see you all hopefully next week. I don't know when this episode is going to be out, but we'll see you all at some point.
Yay!
So, thanks for listening. And it's good to be back.